Hello, and welcome to episode 99 of the Rent to Rent Success podcast. Oh my God, we have got property gold for you today. Joining me today in the studios, well, kinda, is Luke Brindley and John Dale. They have built up substantial property portfolios that allow them the freedom to live life on their own terms and spend lots more time with their families, something that most of us do want to do. And they are both buy to let and BRRR, buy, refurbish, refinance experts with over 25 years of property investing experience. John has been twice on Homes Under the Hammer. John has been on Homes Under the Hammer, and Luke has been twice in Your Property Network magazine, featuring their many developments. And Luke and John have helped many aspiring property investors to go from beginner to winner through their go all in education. And I'm sure we'll get onto that further in the show. So, welcome to the Rent to Rent Success podcast, Luke Brindley and John Dale. Great to have you with us.
Hi, can't wait for it. Thank you for having us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Stephanie. Really appreciate it. I've listened to your podcast, and yeah, it's fabulous. So it's great to have opportunity to be on.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. We know each other, of course. I'd seen you online before, John, but then, of course, we've got to know each other a little bit more since we've been in the Wealth Builders community. And I did do a podcast episode with Kevin Whelan from Wealth Builders a little while ago. But it's just such a great community to be in. But for now, let's hear a bit more about your background and story before we dive into what we're talking about today. So let's start off with you, Luke. How did you get into property?
Yeah, so for myself, Stephanie, it was pretty much I started investing in 2011, so around 10 years ago now. And that sort of came about because, I was spending a lot of time working offshore in the middle of the North Sea, spending weeks and weeks away from the family. And I was looking for something, I knew it wasn't going to be overnight, but I was looking for something that was going to eventually allow me to get control back of my time.
Brilliant. And what was the situation with you, John?
So pretty much the same. I wasn't offshore. I was working for big blue chip companies, probably 60, 70 hours a week. My dad passed away at an early age, and I moved to Wales wanting to try and get into property, watching Sarah Beanie on TV and doing all these refurbs, and never really got to it. And the spooky bit was my wife's into mediums. And a medium came through and speaking to her and said, go home, tell your husband that his dad says, start doing what you want to do. It's a bit weird, but he explained a lot of things that were true. I'm personally not a big believer in things like that, but I went to work the next day. Something happened in work where I had a bit of an argument, so I quit and then started looking to buy property and never looked back since.
Love it. And you're in Wales, we're in Wales as well. So great area for investing. So you got started, and I'd love to know, before we go into a little bit more what we're going to be talking about today, when you first started, Luke, give us an idea of, were there any obstacles for you? Were you worried about things, or did you just sort of feel quite gung-ho from the beginning?
No, there was some real obstacles, Stephanie. A huge obstacle was having the finance in place. So that was my biggest challenge, was saving up to be able to have enough for a deposit for the first purchase. But I had some real in terms of the actually purchasing and getting started investing. I was probably somewhat naive, and I was just excited to be able to do that. But I had more challenges around kind of what my peers' perceptions might be of me. Kind of the background I come from was, I didn't know anybody else who invested in property, and, mistakenly, I decided to keep my investment ventures a secret for 4 or 5 years, just because I didn't want to be perceived as Billy Big Time, to my peers. So yeah, that was kind of an obstacle to myself, by closing myself off. and not sharing what I was doing, I've probably missed out on a lot of opportunities along the way.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, feeling like, A, you're not quite sure how to get the money together to get started investing, and B, you haven't got the network around you of people who are already investing. So can I ask you, Luke, where are you based?
I'm based in Hull, East Yorkshire.
Ah, right. Couldn't tell at all from the accent, but no, but it's so true and it's so important. So, have you since then raised finance, or how did you get started? Did you save up? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, so pretty much, to start with, and for the first 4 or 5 years, really, it was all self-funded. So it was a case of saving up for a deposit, purchasing a property, then refurbing, and at the point of being able to release funds, then use those funds, and any additional funds what was saved up to just keep repeating the process. Yeah, and as I say, it was only really 4 or 5 years down that path where I kind of took a step back and thought, yeah, this is great. I'm making progress. I'm building a portfolio, but I started to, kind of look around and see what I could do to accelerate that. So it was at that point, yes, I started, becoming aware of what other people was doing in terms of raising private investor finance. So yeah, beyond that point, I've been able to, raise hundreds of thousands of pounds from investors to help me to accelerate my own growth of my portfolio.
I suppose that is such nuggets, isn't it? When you keep yourself to yourself, you can only use what you know. So for many of us, at the beginning, we only knew you've got to save your money. If you haven't got money, you can't invest. But then the more you get involved in a network, you can see, oh, there's private investors. Oh, there's different kind of short-term funding available. There's more mortgage options than maybe we thought originally. There's peer-to-peer lending, and all these doors open up for you. So I'm so glad that I asked you that follow-up question there, Luke, and we got a little bit more. So, John, when you started out in property, did you have obstacles to overcome, or was it kind of a simple process for you?
So I'd say getting into property was simple. I quit my job. I did have savings, so we weren't going, okay, where are we going to get the deposit from for the first house? I think my obstacle was me. I'd seen Sarah Beanie on TV. I'd seen Homes and the Hammer. I'd read a few books, and I'm talking 2007. So there probably wasn't as much education out there and all of this thing. So I didn't really believe in education. I was like, right, I'm going to do it myself. So we went and bought our first property. We had quotes from builders to do it. And they were coming at like 22 grand, and it'd take them, I think it was like 5-6 months. I was like, no, I can do it cheaper. So I did my maths on a fag packet, as you do. And I said I could do it for maybe 15 grand. And that was me doing it myself, painting, tiling, putting the bathroom in. And I'd never done anything like that before. So what made me think I could do it better than a professional? I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but we did. I went and did it. 12 months later, we finished it. And I'm so proud I came in at 20 grand on budget. So I saved 2 grand on my builder's quote. But basically, I paid myself 2 grand for 12 months work. And I couldn't get over the fact of leverage at the time.
Yeah.
Of making people do it. And I think that was my biggest eye-opener. Off the back of that, we then learned more about mortgages and finance, and we actually set up our own mortgage brokerage to kind of help us, and really got educated in property then. And I think my biggest takeaway from all of it was the right education at the right time can make a massive difference. The wrong education can obviously steer you in the wrong path and not give you all the information. So it was getting my head around, it's okay to ask for help, and you don't have to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
And support in a community can take you really far rather than going on your own. You can get so far, but there's a limit to your own kind of what you can get out of one day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love what you're saying, guys, because what we're talking about here, what you talked about, Luke, and you, John, is leverage. So with you, Luke, it was realizing that you can leverage OPM, other people's money, and John, you're just saying that you realize you can leverage other people's time, other people's expertise, and you can also leverage other people's knowledge by getting educated at the right time in the right things. So phenomenal. And I know we've got lots of things we're going to go into. We're going to go into how to find BNB deals. We're going to go into what you need to be a successful property investor, how to go from beginner to winner. But before we do that, I'd really love to just paint a picture of what your property investment looks like now. What sort of things do you do? Let's start off with you, Luke, and then go on to you, John.
Yeah, so my portfolio is pretty simple, to be honest with Stephanie. It's just it's built up of buy-to-lets, predominantly using the buy, refurb and refinance strategy. And I've really just focused on that one strategy because it works well in my area. So once you start doing something and it works, just rinse and repeat. People who start getting involved in property, they waste a lot of time, divulging into multiple strategies, and then they can start suffering from overwhelm. I fell into buy-to-lets just because it was the only strategy that I knew of to begin with. I fell into buy, refurb and refinance because the only property I could afford was one what needed a refurb. But yeah, as I got going and started making progress, it just made sense to me to just focus on the one particular strategy. And then as things develop, you start thinking, is the other things I can do? So beyond the simple buy to lets and buy, refurb, refinance, I've done title splits, bought and sold properties, flips. So yeah, you just keep, if you focus on your core business, then you can add to it once you've got that really nailed down.
Yeah, absolutely. And you become so much better when you do things over and over and over. But then, as you said, you get the other bits that you can add on to add that additional value. So I'm just curious. I was curious when you mentioned before that you saved up for your deposits originally. What kind of amount do you need for deposit and buying costs in your area for the type of properties you go for, Luke?
Not a great deal, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, I'd say, compared to other areas of the country, in Hull, the cheapest property I bought was £33,000 for a 2-bedroom terrace.
Wow.
And fortunately for myself, by that point, I was actually in a position to pay cash for that. But typically the purchase price for properties that I've purchased throughout my, investment career has been, between anywhere between 35 up to £80,000 starting price. So, you're looking at 25% deposit. If you're going to buy in that kind of traditional method of putting down a deposit and then getting a 75% mortgage, or purchasing and using, leveraging bridging finance for your initial purchase prior to refurbing and then releasing funds on the back of that.
Okay, great. Interesting. And thanks for that, Luke. So over to you, John.
You probably see why me and Luke get on so well. Pretty much a similar path, buy-to-lets all the way for me.
Yeah.
I think they're stable. They offer good cash flow if you buy in the right areas. And we built our portfolio on solid ground where we don't... I think a lot of people teach, house prices go up, you can remortgage and get more money out. We keep our mortgage balances the same, and we get our loan to value down, so we get better rates. By getting better rates, we get better cash flow. So we built a solid portfolio of single buy-to-lets. We then spread our wings a little bit in doing new build. We do flips. We've done commercial conversion that we're doing at the moment, which is just a retail unit with 4 flats above. Really important that you start with the basics and you kind of get the cash flow correct, which, like Luke says, then once you've got that and you've got the freedom of time, you can look at other avenues and do a little bit more.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So really solid strategies. So let's move on to some of the things that you guys are really expert at. So BRRR, but you give me the lowdown on what it is. And the questions that I'm really curious about is, in our hot marketplace right now, how can you add enough value to refinance your money out? But if you could start off with the definition and then go on to give how you work it, guys.
Okay, Luke, do you want to do the first bit and I'll do the second? Or
Yeah. So I mean, essentially, buy, refurb, refinance is buying a property which needs refurbishment. The refurbishment part of the process is where you're looking to add value to the property, and then the refinance element is once the property is refurbished, get it refinanced at a higher valuation, which then allows you to release funds back from your initial investment, which then allows you to reinvest on your next project.
Okay, and how can you add the value, John, nowadays? Is it still a strategy that works in the hot market that like we are at the moment?
according to Facebook, no. According to all the doom and gloom out there, no, you can't do it. Yes, you can, and we are still doing it. Again, you just have to be a little bit more creative in what you do. So you can either go up levels, so you can add into the ceilings and bungalows to create extra space. You can do extensions. It's not as easy as probably it was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. There's a lot more people doing it. So I don't think it's as easy as you can see, as people used to say, the worst house on the best street, renovate it, add your value and remortgage it. But it also doesn't mean you don't have to leave money in. So a lot of people, there's different ways to do the BRR strategy. And for me, I kind of like to call it like a recycling cash. So the whole idea of BRR is you never run out of a pot of money. So once you've got your savings and you've got this amount of money that you're investing in property, you always top that back up to where it was, allow you to go again. If you leave that in a particular property, where do you get the cash from to start again? I don't have a job, so I can't go and raise that cash through working, and it'd take too long. So there's things you can do by doing flips alongside or by refurbish, refinance. So if you're going to leave 10, 12 grand in a house, you've done a flip at the same time that might make you 20, 30 grand. So actually you can now go and buy 2 buy-to-let properties where you've left no money in, and you're still getting the cash flow and you still got your pot of money to go again. It's just been really creative. Going off market, not every property you see is available on the market. And we've bought 2 properties quite recently. Hands up, they're not all of my money back out. One's leaving 4 grand in, the other's leaving 7 grand in. But if you look at the equity we've got in them, we have 25% equity based on that as an uplift. They'll cash flow £400 a month each, and we got them direct to vendor. Luke helped me with setting up the Facebook stuff, and I think we spent about £40 on marketing to get.
Let's talk about that, because that was another thing I was going to come to, which is you guys are known for finding BMV deals, below market value, because that's another way of being able to add the value, and that's a bit trickier now because the market's so hot. So tell us that story then about how you were able to help get these direct to vendor deals that did so well for you.
Yeah, so for myself, Stephanie, I've been I've been always one of them type people who want to find the very best deals, and going direct to vendor, it just gives you a unique opportunity to be first. First to hear about the prospect, first to the negotiation table, and first to have opportunity to secure the deal. So it, especially nowadays, when the market's so hot, it's a real advantageous position to be in if you can get yourself in a position where you're in front of vendors, or if vendors are approaching you with their properties. And yeah, the property market is very hot at the minute, but there'll always be individuals who, for various reasons are in situations where they want a fast solution, or, their situation leads them to wanting to sell their property in a way which is not a traditional method. So you're providing a service to them people, and it just allows you to take advantage of them opportunities, but whilst also ensuring that the vendor comes out with a resolution which they're happy with.
And did you say Facebook? Because I'm not sure that people, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
How did it go direct to vendor on Facebook?
Yeah, so going direct to vendor on Facebook is it's one of the strategies that I do use. It's not the only strategy. There's I've probably got around 20 lead generation strategies that are constantly evolving. But yeah, getting direct to vendor through Facebook is a really positive way of doing that. It's a method that works if done correctly, and it's a method that in terms of your cost per acquisition, you can see a really significant return on investment.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I wasn't going to bring this up as part of the thing, but it's quite funny. Yesterday, we had a message from this marketing, and gentleman going through a divorce, needs to get out of the house, needs to sell it. They're amicably splitting, and they just want to find 2 rental properties for their kids. They just want to move out. They've bought the house 9 years ago for 75 grand. They want 85 grand for it to clear their mortgage and have deposits, and they want to leave within the next 30 days. We had the message, can you help us? I sent the address off to my letting agent, who came back the same day saying, yeah, it's worth 120 and you can rent it out for 650. So they sent me pictures of what needed to be done inside. It probably needs 5-6 grand spending on it. So when you're talking about the BRR model, all right, it's probably not going to be all of my money out by the time we've done it. But they're looking at 85 grand. So it'll owe me £90,000 when it's finished, and it's worth 120. But on top of that, what a lot of people miss, and when they pitch deals like this, is I've got solicitors, stamp duty, searches, valuations. If we're financing it, finance costs, we're in a lucky position on this one. We'll probably just buy it cash. So we won't have additional finance costs, and we'll just remortgage it within 3 to 6 months. But all this is possible if you just understand how to do it. And for people that know me, I'm 43. I'm not tech savvy. I'm not a massive go online and start making things really complicated and all these algorithms and all of this stuff. What we did and what I actually learned off of Luke, if I'm honest, it's all very basic and very simple and just really easy to understand. And once you've set it up and it's done, it just runs in the background. So like that ad's been running for probably 4 months and we've had no response from it. But we kept paying and we kept paying. And it's only like £5-10 a month. So again, but would you pay £40 to have a deal that's worth 120 that's cost you 90?
Yes, all day long. Oh, so many great insights. Now, I know you have a document, don't you, about how to go get below market value deals. I know that'll be massively valuable to people. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so as I say, Facebook ads is just one way of being able to get direct to vendor deals. So, and it's a real common problem or a common question that I get asked is, how can I get these fantastic deals? And, when people message me, on Facebook Messenger or whatever, in the past I would, kind of go through suggestions with them. So yeah, basically I just put together 20 ways how to find below market value deals. And yeah, that's available for your listeners. If they want a copy, I'm more than happy to share that.
Brilliant. And I know it's at goallin.co.uk. And we've got the links in the show notes, which are at renttoRentsuccess.com/99. But if you're watching on the video, you will see it, goallin.co.uk. And what else you got there? Because that's not the only free resource that you've got on that site, is it?
No, it's not. No, we've got several more free resources on the site. So the 4 key elements to succeed as a property investor. That allows people to understand that where there areas in which they may be deficient and start working on them. We've also got our property funding checklist and also how to retire decades ahead of schedule. People quite often focus on get rich quick, or I want to quit the job in 6 months. But, if you kind of turn that on its head and look at how you can knock decades off your planned retirement age, that can be a tangible goal for most people to work towards.
Yeah. So you said how to knock decades off your retirement age. What was the one before that?
A property funding checklist.
Yeah. What's that about?
So the property funding checklist is, it's for people who are new to raising private investor finance. It gives some real good pointers there as to where you can be seeking to find private investment.
Yeah. Oh no, that's fantastic. So just to repeat that's go all in, and you've got your property funding checklist, you've got how to retire decades early, and you've got 20 ways to find B&B property. So well worth heading over there to have a look. So you help people with your training and mentorship, how to go from beginner to winner in property. So you've worked with lots of people. So what would you say are the secrets to success? What kind of people, what kind of characteristics do people have who succeed?
For me and the people who are, everybody's different. So it's not about, okay, this is your characteristic, you're going to be successful. This is your characteristic, you're not. I think each person has to do it on their own path. Me and Luke have got very similar strategies. We've got very similar family values. But we do things slightly different in the property world. So, and we're slightly different personalities. So again, I don't think you need key traits as such. I think you need to want to be able to do it. The biggest thing I'd say, which is probably a little bit cheesy, is your why. I know all three of us in the past, and we've all spoke about children and family, and that's our key driver as to why. So as long as you've got that why pushing from behind you, we're the support in front of these people to kind of pull them along the journey, but their journey. A lot of people say, oh, copy what they do because it's amazing. It's great copying, but if that's not you and that's not what you want to do, why are you copying it? Because it's not just about the money. Me and Luke love what we do. We really enjoy it. We chose this for a reason. And I think if you can enjoy what you do for a living, you can enjoy life a lot more as well. And it's just all about engaging people in the right way to change their beliefs that anything is possible with the right people supporting you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we try and do, is support people on this journey, just like we've done, to get to that, for want of a better word, financial freedom, or enough money coming in so they've got more time to spend with their family or do what they love.
Because you're so right. And what people need is a strategy, because exactly what you both were saying earlier, Luke, you started off in isolation, you were saving up, and then you realize, oh, this is what people are doing, they're just getting money off other people to do this. Oh, so much easier. And then you changed what you were doing. But also, John, you talked about how although you've got your BRR strategy, sometimes you would need to leave in 4K, 7K, or what have you. And in between, you're doing flips. So people would need to be thinking, okay, I'm going to do so many BRRs, I'm going to do a flip, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm ready for investors and all of that. And they would need to be getting all of that ready. So, Luke, give me some of the main things that you're taking people through, or that you see that people need help with when they come to you in Go All In.
Yeah, so I think really it's a case of just having that level of support there, and having somebody that you can share your challenges with. That's something that myself and John we're quite big on, is within the program there's a big focus on what challenges we've had ourselves, what obstacles we've had to overcome. Myself and John had a discussion, and they said, would it be good if we put together 101 property mistakes that we've made between us? And we said, yeah, that's great. And I think we came up with 101 mistakes within 20 minutes. Probably could have done 1,001. But that's kind of the element of property investing that don't get broadcast enough. The fact that you will make mistakes, and the fact that there is so many challenges ahead. So hopefully, me and John, by sharing our challenges and how we've overcome them challenges, it'll stop people making the same mistakes.
Yeah. What are the biggest mistakes that you've made or that you see people making, John, when they come to you for help?
I laugh because my biggest mistake, and this, when I talk about it, I kind of laugh at myself and go, was I really that stupid? But it wasn't. I just didn't know. I didn't know any different. So my biggest mistake, or not financially, but one of the most, we had a survey done on our property that said there might be a problem with the roof. Go and check it out. So would you think that someone would be clever enough to take their mate who's done a little bit of roofing to see this property at about 9 o'clock at night in the dark in a loft with a little torch? So we had a little look. No, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, John. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. We bought the property completed. In the daylight, went up, and he was like, "Oh look, I can see the sky there, and I can see the sky there." And he was just, was I really take my mate to look at a roof in the dark? It was one of those stories that you hear people say, you think, were you really that silly? But yeah, we just genuinely did, because again, we knew no different of, let's stop and think about this logically. If we're looking for daylight and it's dark, how are we going to see it? So just little silly little things like that. And I say, listen to professionals that are not professional. I think one of my biggest mistakes was you have an architect as an example now. We all think an architect is a property expert.
Yeah.
I now disagree with that statement. An architect is not a property investor. An architect is an expert in drawing plans and doing drawings, and some of them have other skills that overlap that make them better than what they are. We worked with an architect who give us a build cost as well on a particular project. That build cost was only out by about 150 grand.
Oh my goodness.
We were lucky in what we do. We still managed to sell that property and make money and everything, because we didn't build it out. We bought it cheap and we sold it without doing anything to it. And we knew we always had that backup. So again, a lot of things we teach is, look, property is very forgiving if you understand the mistakes that, or the things that can go wrong in it. And you've got, well, if this goes wrong, I can do this. If this goes wrong, I can do that. And you've got all the avenues covered as much as you can. You kind of take less risk. So then it makes it really exciting. Well, if this works, I'm going to do this and make all this money. That's great. But actually, if it doesn't, it's not a problem, because this happens. And actually, that's really good as well. So if you're happy with the worst outcome, why not just do it and hopefully get to the best outcome? But anywhere in between is a bonus then as well.
Yeah. So it's been great having you on, guys, and really share what you've built up for yourselves, the freedom, and also what you're now offering to others within Go All In. And I love the resources that you've got there at goallin.co.uk. But what I'd like to sort of come to as we bring the episode to a close is, what main advice do you give to somebody who was listening, who thought, maybe like you, Luke, oh, I'm not sure that I can get into property. Nobody I know is investing in property. What advice would you give to them to help them get started?
I think there's a lot of people who aspire to be property investors. There's a lot of people who are, unhappy in their day jobs, or a lot of people who are, they just want to change. They want to get control of time back in their life, and the opportunities are there. They are there, and you can try and do it alone, or you can do it with some support. And what me and John are providing is, a program which is affordable for all. There's no big barrier to entry from a financial perspective. We're not charging thousands of pounds. People can come in for £49 and get full access to all of the program. So we're just hoping that we can enable so many more people to come in and see if it's right for them. And if it's right for them, they'll stay and get continued value. If it's not right for them, they're more than free to walk away. But by doing so, they haven't suffered a financial loss, because they had to make a huge commitment just to get through the front door to see what's on the other side.
I love that. I actually wasn't aware of that. That's so massive value that you're offering there for people. And John, what would you say, giving people advice to get started?
Yeah, anyone can do it. So both me and Luke have come from normal backgrounds. I think any property is probably one of the easiest things to get into, but it's also one of the biggest things that can go wrong. So whether that's with us or with anybody else, just get a little bit of education, understand what you want to do. So don't just follow the shiny penny. Don't just do a particular strategy because your mate's doing it down the road or you've seen someone being really successful at it. I think find out about that strategy and the time involved and what money you need to be able to do it. And if you can tick the boxes around that, then great. Let's get started on that strategy. If you can't, we can help you also find a strategy that would work for you and kind of get you on that path to start in your property journey. And everyone's got to start somewhere. So don't be afraid to reach out to me, Luke, or anyone else you know in property and just ask them questions. How did you get started? How can I get started?
Well, that brings us nicely into, how can people contact you? And I know they can go to goallin.co.uk, but is that the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, they can contact us through Go All In. Just send us an email at info@goallin.co.uk, or myself and John both quite active on Facebook. We're more than happy for if people reach out to us directly.
Yeah, so Luke Brindley and John Dale on Facebook or at goallin.co.uk. And I just want to remind you as well about those amazing free resources, 20 ways to find BMV deals. We've got the 4 things to know about being a property investor and the property funding checklist if it's the first time you're looking for private investor funding. So some amazing resources there. And I love everything that you've shared today on the podcast. I want to thank you both, Luke and John, for joining us here today and imparting this amazing value on the Rent to Rent Success podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for having us. It's been great.
Thanks for having us, Stephanie.
It's been amazing. So thank you guys, and thank you for watching and for listening. We're bringing this episode to a close now. So remember, until next week, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer. See you soon. Bye for now.